good.
Following up. Roger, roll with Atlantic. Flight outside of speed off.
Yikes. You bet.
Concur.
We don't need any more of these.
And good afternoon, and welcome to NASA Spaceflight's live stream and Q&A coverage of the launch of the Ariane 5 rocket from Kourou, French Guiana, carrying 3 passengers, the Galaxy 30, Mission Extension Vehicle 2, and VSAT-4B on an Ariane 5 rocket up into geostationary transfer orbit. I'm Chris Gebhardt. I'm the Assistant Managing Editor at NASA Spaceflight, and joining me, the ever awesome Jack Baer. Jack, how's it going? I think we can all agree on that. So the Ariane 5 is scheduled to launch from its South America launch port here at 17:30 EDT, about 24 minutes from now. The overall launch window extends until 18:16 EDT or 22:16 UTC. So a short, less than an hour-long launch window, but everything right now going according to plan. A green board in the Launch Control Center indicating that all technical and weather constraints are not being violated at this point, and everything is good to go 24 minutes from now for the launch of Ariane. So for all of you who are joining us, thank you so much, and please go ahead and send us your questions. Go ahead and tag us at NASA Spaceflight in them so that we can see them a little bit more clearly and quickly, and we will go ahead and get those answered for you live on air. So Jack, what are you looking forward to today with this mission? I totally can, yes. Okay, so apparently I can hear Jack just fine, but his audio is not coming out over the stream. So if you've got any questions, for us on today's mission, Ariane 5, Arianespace, the European Space Agency, any of that in general, go ahead and ask that up in chat, post that up in chat, and we'll go ahead and get them answered. But first off, we'll do a quick overview of the mission and why Ariane 5 is launching today. So overall, the mission will last about 47 minutes, 39 seconds from liftoff until the final payload is deployed. Ariane 5 will be targeting an overall launch trajectory today to deposit its payload into what's known as a geostationary transfer orbit. The particular orbit being targeted today is inclined 6 degrees from the equator, and will have a perigee of 200 kilometers and an apogee of 35,738 kilometers. So that apogee is almost right there at geostationary orbit. And then all 3 of the satellites launched today will have to raise their perigees up over the coming months and weeks to get up into geostationary orbit, where they can be activated and they can come online. 3 satellites are going up. The one riding in the lower passenger position inside the SILDA module is the VSAT-4B satellite, which is going up to provide telecommunications coverage through the KU band system for Japan. It will be a replacement to the VSAT-4A, which was launched about 3 years ago, also on an Ariane 5 rocket, and is capable of functioning for up to 15 years. The other 2 satellites riding in the upper position are Mission Extension Vehicle 2 from Northrop Grumman and Galaxy 30. And Galaxy 30 is actually mated or stacked on top of the MEV and will actually be deployed from the MEV as the first one to pop off the top of the Ariane 5 today after it reaches its transfer orbit. After that, Mission Extension Vehicle 2 will separate as the second vehicle in the launch sequence. And then Mission Extension Vehicle 2 will spend the next 5 months raising itself up into the geostationary orbit belt of satellites and approaching Intelsat 1002, where it will rendezvous with that satellite in January and dock to it in the geo belt, and then provide propulsion, mission extension, and attitude control services as the satellite continues to provide telecommunications services. This is a satellite like Intelsat 901, which MEV-1, Mission Extension Vehicle 1, rendezvoused with earlier this year. That those satellites are just running out of propellant, but otherwise their systems are still operating as they were expected to. So instead of decommissioning a perfectly good satellite just because it's running out of propellant, Northrop Grumman has developed these mission extension vehicles to be able to go up and provide the power and the power and the propulsion and everything to keep those satellites functioning longer than they were originally planned to. So those are the 3 satellites that are going up today, about a 47-minute mission overall from launch to the end of payload separation. And I do see a couple questions in here and some super chats as well. First off, for the super chat, Rough Riders says, thanks so much for streaming again. You guys are troopers. Thanks so much for the support. We really appreciate it. It's the super chats and the channel memberships that really help us sustain all of our efforts here at NASA Spaceflight to bring you not just missions that launch from here, from Florida, where I am, or SpaceX testing in Boca Chica, Texas, but all missions from around the world, no matter who's launching them and no matter what the payload is. So thank you very much. So yes, if about 19 minutes to go here until liftoff. I'm not sure if we've solved Jack's audio problem yet. I see him nodding, so maybe.
Check, 1, 2. Can you hear me?
All right, chat, can you hear Jack there? Seeing if we fix the audio there. Someone says yes, they can hear you, Jack. Awesome.
Awesome. Cool.
All right. So now that you've had time to think about the question I asked, no.
I don't even remember.
What were you going to say?
I've been in panic mode.
I was somewhat ironically asking you what you were most excited for seeing and hearing today from the launch, and then we couldn't hear you.
That is quite ironic. I'm just excited. I like Ariane 5. I think it's a really beautiful vehicle. I think we've seen some really beautiful remote photos from it, from some friends that we know that have had the chance to photograph it. And yeah, it's solids and liquid rockets together. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm excited for. And the mission extension vehicles are nifty to me, and I'm excited to see them go up and extend some missions, because space junk bad, and anything we can do to get more out of the hardware that's already up there is just better. So that's really nifty. I'd like to know more about those if you got any interesting tidbits. Can you hear me?
No, I can. Sorry, I was coming through the question queue. I wasn't actually expecting you to ask me a question.
Oh no, no worries.
Sorry, no. Interesting tidbits on. Sorry, I'm not on the Ariane 5.
The mission extension vehicles from Northrop. They're interesting.
Oh,
that's what's interesting to me about this mission in particular.
Yeah, so these 2 little pods. This is the second one that's going up. It's actually the last in the series that have currently been contracted. But Northrop has said that they'll build more if the market is there for them. But these little things are really nifty because there's there are a lot of satellites we have up there in geostationary orbit and lower orbits, like low Earth orbit as well, that the usefulness of their scientific instruments or their communication instruments can long outlast the amount of propellant that they're able to carry for their operational lives. And being able to extend operational life just because you're running out of propellant is a rather huge thing. We love using analogies. So to use an analogy, you don't throw your car away every time the tank goes on empty, right? So finding a way to keep satellites operational when their propellant tanks run dry is pretty huge. And a huge shout out to Northrop Grumman on this, because MEV-1, which launched in October of last year and rendezvoused with Intelsat 901, its target vehicle, in February of this year. It was the first time we had done a rendezvous and docking in geostationary orbit in the GeoBelt. And they had Intelsat and Northrop Grumman. They all had their ideas and the predictions of how everything would go, but they were really being cautious with that first one. And everything with the docking, they said, just went exactly to plan. Like the one little small thing where they were translating a little bit further away from centerline to perform that docking. Even that small little drift was within the cone of error that was acceptable as they were approaching. So it worked perfectly, and as a result, of that, with this one here launching today, that will go to Intelsat 1002. They're not actually going to take 1002 out of operation, move it up to the graveyard to do the docking. They're just going to let MEV2 approach it while it's still operating and still transmitting and doing all of its telecommunication duties and dock to it. So it should be like a hiccup-free docking, which would be amazing.
Very cool. Yeah, that's nifty. I always like seeing new things and seeing the state-of-the-art advance. So let's get some more of these up there. Hopefully the contract is extended and they build some more and keep extending missions.
Yeah, and what that second part that you said there is pretty paramount, because the first two that are going up, or the second one going up today, joining the first one, they're both contracted for 5 years of operations on their two respective satellites, but they themselves carry enough propellant for a 15-year mission. So,
oh wow,
there's still 10 years on each of those satellites once they're done with their first customer, that they could move on to other satellites, or if Intelsat 901 and 1002 are still functioning properly, just extend the contract and remain with them. It's truly remarkable, and there's a whole range of these things that are things, meaning like this series of like mission extension or robotic vehicles or repair vehicles that Northrop Grumman has planned that they want to demonstrate, and are really hoping that there's a market there.
Question.
Yeah.
Do they have any mission extension vehicles planned?
Yes, that would be awesome if they did. I've never asked them that question, but now I really want to.
No, I'm glad you didn't. That was a bad joke of a question. Anyways, please.
But can you imagine, though? That would just asking someone that question.
Well, if they're good for 15 years, what are you going to do in 20 years when it's running out of propellant? You send up a mission extension vehicle, and extend the mission extension vehicle. Bam! I mean, you just have it's just chains. It could be mission extension vehicles all the way down. I consult exactly. On the side. If you want me to come to your aerospace company, I've got all these brilliant ideas. Just let me know.
Well, there you have it, Jack. Jack's services available for, but then Jack, that would logically lead to the next question of what happens when your mission extension vehicle is running out of propellant in 60 years.
I'm sad that you even have to ask. You get a mission extension vehicle, but we should probably stop this joke before I spend the rest of the stream saying extension vehicle. Oh,
and now everyone watching understands why we're never allowed on a stream together without supervision.
So is that green box on the feed? Is that the countdown timer, or at 12 minutes 30 seconds to go? Is that accurate, or am I misinterpreting?
It is indeed.
Okay, cool. So we're like 12 minutes 30 seconds to go. Sweet.
Indeed, and that green is very, very good, because that is indicating that all of the technical and weather constraints are not being violated right now. So we have a clean board and a good rocket. If there were a problem, we would see that turn yellow or red, depending on if it's a problem where they're going to have to go into an extended hold, we might see yellow, and if it's red, that would mean we're holding. But what we would hope to see is just a very, very smooth pass through. The final pole will be coming up here momentarily, and then we should very seamlessly move past the T-minus 7-minute mark, which is the start of the launch auto sequence for Ariane 5. At that point, cool. Ariane 5 will have control along with the ground computers, and they'll march right down to hopefully a liftoff 7 seconds after T0. T0 will be when we light the engine, and then 7 seconds after that will be when the solids light. And we should have liftoff after that. But yes, so let me, I'm going to just...
I'm adding some questions now. If you have any that tickle your fancy, feel free and answer them.
Yes.
I can pitch them to you if you want also.
Yeah, either works. Actually, I was just making sure my audio was up on the Ariane feed, so we could hear it and know what they're saying as well. But yeah, let's take this first one from Chris. So how are they able to fly 3 satellites to geostationary transfer orbit? I thought Ariane was only capable of 2. And that is normally correct, right? Ariane 5 normally launches 2 major telecommunication satellites at a time, thanks to the SILDA module, which is actually the acronym that stands for Ariane double flight, basically, meaning that they can do 2 payloads. But in this particular case, the upper payload, the Galaxy 30 satellite and the mission extension vehicles, were kind of designed to launch together to begin with. So while they're technically two separate missions, as far as Ariane is concerned, from the rocket standpoint, it's actually no different than launching two in the upper position. The only main difference here is that it will be the MEV that releases Galaxy 30. Galaxy 30 will be the first of the three payloads to be released. It will actually be destacked and pushed away from MEV by MEV, and then MEV2 on itself will be released by the Ariane 5, following a short reorientation. So that's how they're able to do three in a two configuration, just because the masses ended up working out well, because basically, right, mission extension vehicle is really just like the satellite bus. It's not the entire satellite and the solar, and the massive telecommunication antennas or equipment like that. It's really just the satellite bus in this regard. So that helps reduce the overall mass of the upper passenger position in this regard.
Super cool. All right, let's see. Yeah. Kevin Chambers, what's up, Kevin? Asks, if a satellite with an MEV attached dies, can the MEV independently deorbit graveyard the main bus?
Yes. So this would be awesome, right? So defunct satellites in geostationary orbit, right? The MEVs are capable of moving to them, rendezvousing, docking, and then hauling them up into geo graveyards, where they're safe, that the orbit isn't going to decay, and you can get them out of the way of a useful geostationary operational slot in that regard. So they are capable of doing that. They're also theoretically capable of decluttering the low Earth orbit environment too, or also doing fine-tune precision pointing for some telescopes that we have in low Earth orbit that, maybe one day might have gyroscope failures and there's no human that can go up and swap out gyroscopes anymore, but MEVs and that type of technology could also hypothetically be applied to telescopes and satellites in low Earth orbit, including dragging them down to lower orbits where they would re-enter naturally in a matter of a couple of weeks. So I think that was the overall spirit of the question, right? Deorbiting them
absolutely.
If they're dead?
Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely. Solid answer.
Yeah, so real quick, we are about a minute away from passing into the auto sequence here for Ariane. So we should be hearing them talk now. Michael, can we bring that audio up by any chance, or no?
Chef de mission.
And we can see here
on voit ici le panneau des états. Là, c'est le directeur d'opération, le DDO. DDO qui coordonne toutes les activités.
But what we will have here shortly is the call out from the DDO, the launch director, who will be calling out the milestones now here in the auto sequence, which will start in 20 seconds. And here we go. So the start of the auto sequence is when Ariane 5 and ground crews really take control of the critical final moments of the count and start actively preparing the vehicle for liftoff. So this includes, this involves, among other things, right, the stopping the replenishment of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen in Ariane's fuel tanks, purging all of those ground support lines and lines on power so there's not an accidental ignition when Ariane's engines ignite and the vehicle lifts off. And it will also be calibrating and getting all of the flight software and instrumentation needed for a successful flight, and checking that to make sure that all of that is ready for liftoff as well. A big visual change, one of the things I love about the Ariane 5, Jack, is that actually all of the propellant lines and everything for the second stage detach 7 seconds before engine ignition. So we've seen before that if they have a scrub after those upper arms detach, a lot of times they have to roll it back to reattach those arms, just so, and the contingency procedures they have to detank the upper stage in that regard as those arms pull back well before liftoff.
Yeah, I think Doss and I were just talking about that on one of the Starship streams the other day, that they actually did have to like send a red team out to the pad basically and manually reattach that stuff, which is kind of bonkers to me, but it makes sense. It makes sense in the you know, if at T7 you figure you're gonna go or you're not, you might as well have them pull off, you know. But I certainly wouldn't want to be on the red team for that. Maybe I would. I do like adrenaline. I'm a fan, so maybe.
Yeah. Well, and you know, one way they could actually safe the upper stage of that vehicle is just open the vent valves. You know, open the oxygen valve, let it bleed out, and then
yeah,
take your chance and go out and reconnect the hydrogen line. But yes, this is one of those rockets where the fuel lines.
Oh, 10-minute siren! It's gonna hop. 10-minute siren! It's gonna hop.
Is it that obvious? Like in my neighborhood? Awesome. Awesome. What's another? Let's go through some super chats real quick here. So Brendan Gleason, thanks for the €5. Is there much known about any future rockets from Arianespace that are in development right now? Yes, actually, the Ariane 5's successor, the Ariane 6, is approaching the end of its overall development cycle. Right now, it was originally going to launch later this year on its first mission, but that has now been postponed until 2021, primarily because its first mission was to launch a bunch of OneWeb satellites, and OneWeb went bankrupt earlier this year, and now they've been bought by the UK government, but restarting production is going to take some time, so the first flight of Ariane 6 has been delayed, but there's quite a bit of information that's actually known about Ariane 6, including the heritage technology that it brings forward from Ariane 5, as well as the first stage booster technology from the Vega rocket that it will utilize to augment its first stage as it lifts off. So yes, quite a lot of good
we know
things
the
coming
feed
from
just disappeared for a second. We're just we're switching it over to the English feed. We know it's not there. Chat's kind of saying but no, that's it's intentional. We're switching over from the French feed to the English feed. Sorry.
It is, and to be fair, we're watching 3 people sitting at a table, socially distanced, talking about the mission right now. They're not actually showing Ariane 5 on the launch pad yet, but we are 3 minutes, 21 seconds and counting, or 8:17. Sorry, I was looking at the home screen there. But there we go. And you can see Ariane 5 on the pad. Actually, you could see it just there on the background. It's gorgeous there just before sunset. Look at that on the pad.
That's going to be one heck of a beautiful launch right there. If it goes today, hopefully in about 3 minutes. I mean, just look at that sunset in the background. I'm excited for the views that we are about to get. I'm not sure if I follow any like relevant rocket photographers on Twitter, but I'm gonna have to, after this launch, go poke around and see if I can find any. What would they be? ESA?
ESA photographs mainly, yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to poke around and find some cool photos from this launch, because there will undoubtedly be some.
And for those of you, I'm going to finish off the super chats here. And then for those of you who have asked us questions, we've got several in the queue. This is a 25-minute ascent to orbit under near continuous propulsion. So we've got a lot of time to answer questions while that upper stage is firing for a very impressive amount of time. So we will get to those questions shortly, but before in the final 2 minutes, Don, thanks so much for the 10 Swiss francs. All of that support, including Adon, Tufik. Thank you so much, both of you, for your super chat support for us. And Tufik asked one: why is James Webb Space Telescope going on an Ariane 5 instead of a Falcon Heavy? That can be answered very quickly before liftoff. Falcon Heavy was not a certified rocket and did not actually exist when James Webb began development and began construction. And what needed... and we have a hold.
Hold.
For go, we have stop. Damien, just to talk us through what the range operations manager just said.
This thread corresponds to...
So hang on, they're talking about what is the issue right now.
However, everybody is still keeping ready in order to restart the activities when the issue will be solved. This situation is completely nominal because the aim of this kind of check is to check everything before we go for liftoff. So we are currently treating this anomaly. and we will come back when we will have more information about that.
So the chronology is continuing for the moment. The chronology.
It sounds like something. Yeah, it sounded like they said it was a red condition on the base. Yes. Jack, is there a question or something that tickles your fancy that we could potentially answer?
Yeah, my guy Kevin Chambers in the chat there. He's an Instagram friend of mine. What's up, dude? Another really good question. He asks, why do the MEVs mate with the bus's engine bell instead of its deployment payload mating adapter? Why does the MEV mate with the engine bell?
Yes, so the MEV actually mates with the engine bell because of clearances that take place around the two vehicles to make sure that as they're approaching, right, and everything, that they don't connect with one another. But also it's actually easier to just kind of go inside the engine, grab hold of the liquid apogee engine, and then just pull it in and grab hold of the engine itself, because that can actually be used universally across almost any satellite that the MEV could potentially be trying to go up and provide mission extension services to. So instead of trying to build docking adapters that could match a variety of spacecraft, it's just easier to say every one of them has a liquid apogee engine, so let's just grab that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Are they?
I need to type out one thing real quick. So can you take over real quick, Jack? I want to go check on something that I'm hearing here real quick. If that's okay.
Go for it.
Yeah.
And also, hello, we have Scott Manley in the chat. What up, Scott? Always nice to see you pop in. Let's see. A lot of people in chat asking who broke it. It wasn't me. Okay. Yep, looks like we had a ground support equipment issue based on a tweet from our good buddy Ian. Or wait, no, Thomas. I am fail. So
okay, so a ground support issue, it sounds like. Well, that's good, because that means it's not the rocket, and sometimes ground support issues can be fixed quicker than diagnosing a problem on the vehicle. Sometimes, not always, but that's not necessarily bad news right now.
Is it scrubbed, or is it just a delay, a hold?
So Arianespace has been talking about, we have time in the window to fix. We have time in the window to fix. No one has said on the broadcast the S word yet.
Got it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying it left and right like a newbie over here. I should know better. Let's see. Don Terralio says, I worked on the payload fairing for this launch. Awesome, Don. Thank you for the super chat. And Michael Ernest, super awesome. Thank you for the $10. They say, won't Arianespace eventually have to look at reusability? I mean, yes, that seems to be, to quote Howard Hughes, or at least Leonardo DiCaprio playing Howard Hughes, wave of the future. That's reusability.
True.
Better get on, surf the wave, or it's gonna drown you. That got dark.
That did get dark.
Sorry. As with many of the sentences that come out of my mouth, there's a 50% chance of turning abysmally dark. Anyways, let's see.
It's okay.
I've got some more questions for you if you feel like answering them.
Yes, definitely. I looked at what I was trying to figure out, that scrub and ground support issue there.
No sweat. Yeah, and feel free to, like, obviously keep poking around, see what you can find.
Yeah, definitely.
But I am going to ask you a question.
Yes, please do.
How does the Ariane 5 stack up against other launch vehicles of its class?
Great question. In terms of what, I guess is a question. if we're talking price, the Ariane 5 carries a per mission cost of what is it? It's roughly. I want to go make sure I'm going to get the euros to dollars conversion correct in my head.
I like that I chose the question that you would most likely sweat the details of, and then therefore actually distract you from the task at hand. But
well,
it's a good question.
I mean, it is a very good question. And the reason I need to go verify the overall one is because what the passengers pay is different. So basically, the upper passenger on Ariane 5 pays roughly $100 million, and the lower passenger pays roughly $60 million. It depends on the overall configuration of the rocket. The overall rocket can run anywhere from 165 to 220 million, depending on needs of the particular mission. But if we take that 165 million and the upper passenger is paying, I think it's something like 103 million of that, and the lower passenger is paying 62 million, it brings it more or less commensurate with the other heavy lift vehicles of the world, like the Falcon 9 and the Atlas 5, for example, here in the United States. It brings what the payload customer pays into alignment with other vehicles, basically. If that's what the question was about, then that's that. In terms of its throw capacity, Ariane 5 can take 1,600 kilograms or 35,000 pounds to low Earth orbit, and it can take 10,865 kilograms or just under 24,000 pounds to geostationary transfer orbit. So a very capable vehicle.
So I have like a slight twist on the question. A lot of times,
yes.
and maybe this is just the circles I dabble in. A lot of times you see online or on forums or what have you, like, oh, Falcon Heavy's second stage is super underpowered because it's Carolox. And, Falcon Heavy can throw a lot into LEO. It's kind of optimized for LEO. I could be completely wrong. Again, this is stuff that I think that I've read, but yeah, Ariane 5's got that LH2, the hydrogen upper stage, which I know generally hydrogen upper stages. I mean, I think of Centaur. I think of things with extremely high specific impulse, able to do extremely well on the long throw, like deep space planetary or what have you missions. I guess in this case GTO. Does the upper stage on Ariane 5 give it any kind of advantage? Would you agree with that sentiment that people say that the upper stage on Falcon Heavy is underpowered? And for third question, would you like me to stop asking you questions while you do whatever you're doing?
I don't know of anyone who said that the upper stage of Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy is underpowered. I mean, it's a different type of power because that is an incredibly high thrust to weight stage. I think the ending thrust to weight ratio on that stage is something like 6.4 or 6.8 or something like that. So it can do really powerful throws itself, right? But where the stages start, but where like the efficiency of the stages comes in, right? Whether
specific
it's the
impulse
force
specifically
is exactly, it comes in specific impulse, and obviously by that, Falcon 9 is not as efficient as the Centaur upper stage of the Atlases or the Delta cryogenic second stages of the Delta IV heavy rockets, just from a sheer specific impulse standpoint. It's a good question. I mean, because like the missions are all tailored, and this is part of the calculus, right? That NASA uses, right, in determining launch vehicles for particular missions, right? Because one thing that they still do need data on is really how that second stage of the Falcon 9 would perform in a very tight pinpoint interplanetary insertion, right? Whereas we know over and over and over and over again, I mean, Centaur doesn't just hit a bullseye, I mean, it nails it. I mean, yesterday, for example, with Mars Curiosity, they were initially aiming for an Earth parking orbit of 167 by 250 kilometers, and the actual RL10 cutoff orbit was 167.2 by 150.1 kilometers. I mean, that's not a bullseye, satisfying. That's a nailing it. Yeah, like
it's just testament to ULA's ability to execute so flawlessly like that, just again and again and again and again and again. It's so satisfying. It's like I say the same thing about Steve Jobs keynotes because I'm that much of a nerd. But it's like watching a home run, a baseball guy hit home runs. I don't know. I don't watch sports, but you know what I'm saying. It's like watching a hockey guy hit the hockey ball into the hockey point winning place.
Hitting the hockey ball.
I'm making so many people mad right now. Oh wow!
Oh
what have I done?
That's awesome. Woo.
You know,
That's
the hockey
awesome.
ball.
A hockey ball, yes. So as you can see, for those of you who are just joining us, and we'll get back to some of your questions now as we wait. But as you can see, we are in a hold right now. There was an issue with a ground support piece of equipment that occurred 2 minutes 14 seconds prior to liftoff. So we are in a hold right now as they attempt to resolve the ground issue. The window lasts until 18:16 Eastern, 22:16 UTC, which is roughly 25 and a half minutes from now, is what remains in the launch window today before they would have to stand down, fix the issue, and come back another day. So that is currently where we stand. But Jack, what about any questions that we got? Any more?
Yeah.
I answered both of yours, I think, right? In a sort of weaselly way by saying
you did. I don't
do
even know
things
if my questions were
independently.
valid questions, Chris. So you did fantastic. Pink Mouse asks MEV for Hubble. I think you were heavily implying that earlier, but you didn't out and out say it. So I'm just going to put you on the spot and make you out and out say it.
No, make me out and out say it, because I'm going to go to the article and read it verbatim. I did specifically use Hubble as the hypothetical when interviewing Northrop Grumman about future MEVs. And let me go find exactly what they said, because basically what they made very, very clear, which I also had made clear to them in asking the question, is I know this is not a thing you're actually looking at. I know this is not something NASA has asked for. This is purely a hypothetical.
Yeah, like if we had these in our Lego kit, could we make a model of
Yes. Yes, exactly. So yes, so specific, right? No plans exist. So this is exactly what it says. So while no plans exist to use the vehicles in such a manner, an example of their potential use in low Earth orbit includes a hypothetical rendezvous with the Hubble Space Telescope, whereafter the MEV-like craft could take over precision pointing operations for the telescope and one of its gyroscopes. Quote, all of that is within the realm of possibility, confirmed Mr. Anderson. The technology we are developing for MEV and mission extension pods of the future are clearly within the capabilities of doing those sorts of missions. Today, we don't have a customer base for that, but everything we're doing can be directly tied to those types of missions, is the direct quote. Now, in addition to that, right, a question that we got into was, could these mission extension pods or robotic servicing vehicles, which couldn't open Hubble's doors and actually take out, the scientific equipment and replace it, you still need hands to do that. Could these new robotic vehicles work in tandem with SpaceX? Could take the crew up there to do the repair, couldn't necessarily haul anything in its trunk without a robotic arm to assist the astronauts with getting it all out. And the answer to that was also a hypothetical, yes, they have been designed with human-in-the-loop interaction in mind. So
that's really, really cool.
You can see where this might all be going, but yes, that's where it is.
Yeah, I think we all love and really have a special affinity for Hubble. So, that's something that it makes me feel happy inside. Even though it's not planned, it's not contracted, it's completely hypothetical, but it just makes me happy. It's like, knowing that Hubble can maybe have a friend someday that will help it continue to be useful. Because as cool as James Webb is, as excited as I am for James Webb, it is not a direct successor to Hubble. So we want something in the visual wavelength up in there pointing for a long time. Methinks. So let's see.
True. Yeah, because I agree with you. The possibility that we have things that could help it just keep going until literally its science instruments give out, right? And then to me, that would be great. And then even better would be we do something like that, and then we send Starship up to get it and bring it home.
And then
so
Scott Manley in chat, what up, Scott, is saying there's companies selling small manipulator arms for satellites. So there you go.
Yeah, there we go. Yep.
And then Arthur Hicken, thank you so much, Arthur. I met Arthur way back. It must have been an Iridium booster recovery down at the Port of LA. He was out there taking some cool infrared photos. Thank you for the $5, Arthur. Thanks for stopping by our stream. super appreciate the support, buddy. Good to see
so I'm seeing some questions just popping up in chat. How much longer? How much longer? That is a good question. There are currently math off the top of my head is always dangerous. 31 minutes remaining in today's launch window. So there are 31 minutes remaining in the window. They are in an unplanned hold. There was some ground support equipment failure or issue that cropped up 2 minutes, 14 seconds prior to liftoff based on the clocks in the background when the countdown held. So they are in an unplanned hold right now. No word right now as to how quickly they can resolve that issue, or even at this point, if they know if they can resolve that issue in time to pick up the count in time to get off the ground before the window closes at 18:16 Eastern, which is 22:16 UTC. But that's where we are right now, and that's what we're waiting for word to hear. What you're actually seeing on your screen is the official Arianespace broadcast. They ended commentary coverage as they entered the prolonged hold here, but said that they would be back with updates when they had them to give. So that is the status of where we are right now as we await Ariane 5's hopeful launch, because it looks absolutely gorgeous from a weather perspective down there today in French Guiana. But that's where we are right now in our countdown and in our hold. Okay, so we asked the question about how Ariane 5 stacks up against other launchers of its class. That one. So here's a good one from Philip Whitehouse. So satellites docking with each other are super cool. Is Northrop Grumman the only people doing this? That's a great question. Northrop Grumman's the only company that we know of doing it. We can't discount the fact that the U.S. government hasn't done something that we're unaware of. It's not necessarily the first time. Yeah, well, there is that element to it. What we do know is that the docking of these satellites together in geostationary orbit, that Northrop Grumman did confirm is the first. MEV1 was the first time in history that happened. No caveat of first time that we know of. They flat out said, no, it is the first time we've done that. So dockings and rendezvous in geostationary orbit are definitely something that only Northrop Grumman vehicles have done from the active vehicle perspective. Intelsat also deserves credit for that because they were the target satellite that they were going to earlier this year, Intelsat 901. And it's another Intelsat, that Mission Extension Vehicle 2, which is one of the 3 payloads on this flight. It will be going to Intelsat 1002. The other payloads on board, for those of you who joined us after we talked about this a little bit earlier in our stream, the 2 other satellites joining MEV2, Mission Extension Vehicle 2, are Galaxy 30 from Intelsat as well, and VSAT 4B that will be going up to provide telecommunications services in the Japan region. And here's a great question too from that's asking, how can you have a window to go to geostationary transfer orbit? Isn't it really specific?
Good question.
It is a really good question. Yeah, so you can have a window for GTO because of, in a way, how it becomes easier to phase and change elements of your orbit the farther away you are from Earth and the higher you are in your orbit. So in some regards, it's a little bit easier for satellites to do some maneuvering and to correct for some plane, like launch plane differences from the ideal that they should have been launched into. But basically the windows to geostationary transfer orbit are determined in a way so that all of the satellites can still reach their intended targets with the propellant reserves that are allowed per the mission planning rules for those types of operations. And it's really just basically a matter of planning out those missions is really a matter of, okay, where are we trying to get to in GTO, and when specifically do the payloads need to get there based on, for Ariane, how they disperse out around the globe after after launch. And then once you have that, you just work your timeline back to the launch site. And then you look at the capabilities of the vehicle and the capabilities of the satellites on board. And you understand how much propellant they have to correct for those types of off-center launches into the GTO trajectory that they're going to be placed in. And then that is what gives you your launch window based on satellite performance on orbit. I hope that made sense. It's a weird thing that GTO missions have windows, but it's just, especially in Kerbal Space, this is what I love about Kerbal Space, Jack, and I'm sure you've done this too, right? Is you get a really good sense of how easy it is to change orbital inclinations, to change orbital altitudes when you're at geostationary orbital altitudes versus when you're in like a 200 kilometer or 400 kilometer orbit that the space station is in. For example,
if you're in Leo or Keo or whatever you want to call it, and you're trying to change your inclination, you're going to have a bad time delta V wise.
Yeah, but it becomes really easy in geostationary orbit to do that from a propellant efficiency perspective. So that's what gives you that's what determines your GTO orbits and timelines in that regard.
Super good question.
Yeah. Really good question there. Harry Young with another great question, since we were talking a little bit about Hubble and potential hypothetical uses for mission extension vehicles. Harry wanted to know, have any of Hubble's instruments failed since STS-125? So instruments in terms of like the scientific instruments on board, NASA has not said that any of those have failed. Those still appear to be going strong. What are failing are the gyroscopes. Yeah, it's unfortunately the gyroscopes that are going. And I believe they managed to get one of them back online that we had lost earlier. So we still, I believe, have a redundancy of 2, but Hubble can only lose 2 more at this point before they would lose the ability to fine-tune, point it rock solid at a target to do the observations that it needs to do so. A lot of us were watching that. I believe it was last year when a couple of the gyroscopes failed, and it was like, uh-oh, we can't lose another one. And then they managed to get one of the ones they had lost back, but not fully. It's, Hubble is showing its age, and, it has been 11 years since the last servicing mission, which is the longest Hubble has ever gone between servicing missions. So,
I like having empathy for the machines that we depend on, and especially the ones that are like legendary and historic. I mean, I even almost anthropomorphize them a little bit, but I think just a random little merch idea. It'd be cool to have like a "Good job, Hubble" shirt or something with like a line drawing of Hubble on it. Or I wanted the same thing for not Curiosity,
Opportunity.
Opportunity. Yeah, I wanted the same exact, like a line drawing of Opportunity and just "Good job, Oppie," because it did such a good job.
I know, I remember. So when the dust storm began and Opportunity stopped transmitting back.
Yep.
We were actually on a plane going on vacation to Mexico, and then we were at the New Mexico Natural History Museum in Albuquerque as this was wearing on, and they had a whole display about Opportunity and Spirit, and I wasn't ready for that when I rounded the corner and saw the model there. And we were talking about how long it had been, and it was hard to not get emotional about a machine and losing a machine. But 14 years for a 3-month mission, it was really hard to not get emotional when Opportunity didn't wake back up.
Yep. Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah. And thank you all. Thank you all 6,000 of you who are watching us and waiting out this unplanned hold late in the game for Ariane 5. Geographic wanting to know, do we have a T0 or an L0 yet for this mission? Unfortunately, we don't. They are still troubleshooting and trying to fix the ground support issue that apparently occurred, and I say apparently because it did sound like it was the ground issue that occurred, but they haven't really been specific on what it is. But there was a ground support equipment issue that hit at about 2 minutes 14 seconds prior to the planned liftoff. The overall launch window today closes in about 25 5 minutes from now at 18:16 EDT, 22:16 UTC. So that is the end of our window, and based on previous Ariane 5 counts, they did have to back up to the T-minus 7 minute and counting, 7 minute and holding mark, because that is when the synchronized sequence begins. And like all vehicles, you would most likely have to go back and redo the synchronized sequence to get back into launch posture. So we do expect and anticipate an answer here within the next 11 minutes. Just simply because of when they would have to pick up the count again to launch before the end of the window. So that's what we know, and that's all Arianespace has been able to provide at this time, but we are standing by for updates, and as soon as we have them, we'll pass them along. In the meantime, we have been taking your questions here, so if you do have questions for us, continue to put them up in chat for us, and we will continue to roll through these as we wait out the prolonged hold. Any question that tickles your fancy, Jack?
Scott Manley asks in chat, hey guys, any comment on Rocket Lab's release today? A little off topic, but we could do a quick little blurb on that if you have any thoughts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so my first thought when they talk about how many channels of data they had that were unaffected by what the failure was, my first thought was, oh, good. That this probably made it a lot easier. And then Peter Beck was like, this made it a lot easier. It's like, but basically they traced it to a wire that was not corrected properly, an electrical wire that wasn't fully connected. And that ends up being a very easy fix. So easy, in fact, they will return to flight in August, 4 weeks after losing flight number 13. That's
remarkably fast. That is remarkably fast.
It is, and I want to preface this by saying, this is a compliment. That is some Russian-level recovery from an American company on that end, because the Russians and Roscosmos are absolutely great at when something goes wrong of tracking it down quickly and fixing it and getting back in the air and getting to flying, and that is exactly what Rocket Lab has done. We've seen that type of rapid return to flight from SpaceX before, but I believe even they took 4 or 5 months or something like that. Amos 6 to September, October, November, December, January, so 4 months. It took them at least 4 months to return to flight, and Rocket Lab's gonna different failures, easier to fix on Rocket Lab's part, but I mean, just returning to flight in a month is awesome to see.
Yeah, I shouldn't say they got lucky with the way that the failure happened and the way the engine shut down, and they retained telemetry and got all that data. For all I know, that was completely intentional. An intentional failure mode, the engine safe shut it down, and they were able to therefore get all that data and therefore have an easier time diagnosing and solving that problem and getting back to flight quickly. So super nifty. I'm happy for Rocket Lab. I think they're a great company. They're an awesome company. I like what they're doing. And yeah, nice to see them get back to flight. So you want to do a quick, if you're just joining us thing? I see we've got I don't know how I didn't notice this already. They've put, probably Michael put a white ticker on
I believe that's Arianespace because there's French. Yes.
All right, drinking more coffee.
That's okay.
I thought we got the guys are talking too much ticker across the screen to explain what was going on while we babbled.
No,
that's just my insecurity.
Yeah. So we had a good question. I tried to send it over to our queue, but it disappeared for some reason on me. But I remembered, so I wanted to ask this or answer this for you. But I apologize. I lost the name that was attached to this. But someone asked the question. Ariane 5 is liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. Why aren't we seeing any condensation or vapor venting from the vehicle?
Oh, good
so
question.
This is one of those really good questions. Each vehicle does it slightly differently. So you can actually see just above the solid rocket booster nose cones, there's a little, and just below the payload fairing with the Arianespace logo, you can see just a little bit of wispy vapor there, dead center of the screen. So that is the liquid oxygen boiling off into gaseous oxygen in the upper stage that we see venting from there. But we don't normally see large vents from the Ariane 5 because it normally vents the gaseous oxygen out through the bottom of the vehicle. So we don't see it condensing down around it. If you remember Well, okay, because I'm sure John Krause is probably listening, so I'm just going to go ahead and mention the space shuttle here. But the shuttle vented the gaseous oxygen, right, not just out of the top of the vehicle, but also down out of the bottom, out of the engines, right? So there are different rockets do it different ways, and Ariane 5 just vents down in a way that we can't see it from the cameras, and there's not a lot of condensation. But that was a great question that I saw and wanted to answer, and apologies that I lost the name that was attached to that. But yes, anyway, if you are, yeah, oh yes, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, remind me how much we had left in the launch window? Not long, right?
Yeah, so just under 16 minutes remain in the launch window now. Every other time Ariane 5 has scrubbed this scrubbed. I mean, stop. I didn't mean that. I did not mean that. It has not scrubbed. Misspeak. Every other time we've seen a late count hold after they get past T-minus 7 minutes on Ariane, which is the start of the synchronized sequence or the auto sequence, they have to, usually recycle to T-minus 7 minutes. We're waiting to hear what the cause of the ground support issue was that caused the hold at T-minus 2 minutes, 14 seconds. But we are still holding, and there has been no update that I have seen yet from Arianespace that would indicate whether they know for certain that they can pick up the count or not. I would imagine, based on the fact that no one has outright come out and said the S word on this one, scrub, that they think they've got a shot at picking up the count. I can't imagine they would just hold and hold and hold and hold if they really didn't think they had a shot of fixing the error. Sometimes what you get, though, in short windows like this one, it was under an hour. It was 41 minutes long, the launch window today. Sometimes what you get is, just, oh my gosh, we know we can fix this quickly, but can we fix it quick enough, right? And that becomes the calculus. That definitely seems like what's happening
we can
here.
Fix it this quickly, but in the real world, getting all the people that need to be able to fix it in the car, in the thing, with the right diagnostic equipment, on the way to the pad, getting at the pad, pulling off the pan, whatever all this stuff they have to do. Who knows if in the real world that takes the amount of time that they actually have in the window. That makes sense. Man, what a beautiful sunset. I hope they release a time lapse or something of that sunset, because what a gorgeous shot.
It really was. I mean, oh, man. I mean, if they can launch today, too, by the end of the window, it's still going to be absolutely gorgeous because Ariane 5 should climb back into daylight and break back into daytime as it ascends. But, yeah, we're just waiting to hear what the cause of the issue was. This is the live Ariane feed, and I've got the live commentary up. They're just not saying anything right now to us. So as soon as we know, we'll let you know. But Jack, any other questions? But if you've got questions, we've got about 13 minutes remaining before we know definitively. But I'm assuming we will also know here roughly in the next 4 minutes, especially if they had to recycle to the T-minus 7 minute mark.
What are the pros and cons of launching from the French Guiana over Boca Chica or Kennedy? It's more equatorial, right? You get a lot more of a push from the Earth there.
Yeah, huge bonus actually to launching down there because Kourou is only 3 degrees north of the equator, so you get virtually all of the Earth's rotational help to throw you downrange, especially when you're going east. So this was the huge part of the reason why Europe chose Kourou for its spaceport, was its proximity to the equator. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Michael.
I always like to pretend we're in a Truman Show type situation, and Michael is the voice of Christo in the moon, the director of existence.
Right, because all of a sudden people on the stream will just hear us go, "Thank you, Michael," and they probably didn't hear what he said. But whoops. Yes, the red indication, we don't know. I've been checking Arianespace's feeds, and all that they're saying was 30 minutes ago that there was an unplanned hold, and that more information would follow. Again, we are just under 12 minutes away from the close of tonight's launch window from French Guiana. Again, normally on Ariane 5 missions like this with holds, they have to recycle to the T-minus 7 minute mark, which is the start of the synchronized sequence. which means they would have to be picking up the count here by 1809, basically 4.5 minutes from now. They would have to be picking up the count if they recycled to T minus 7 minutes. So we will continue to see what the outcome is here. But again, we are very rapidly approaching the end of the launch window. We don't know exactly what it was on the ground support side that caused the issue. We're still waiting for that as well, but it's a fully fueled and otherwise happy Ariane 5. There's nothing wrong with the rocket. And man, was the weather absolutely gorgeous down there today for them. But we will see. We'll see what they can do, because as Ray D is asking, what is this mission for? Because there are 3 satellites inside Ariane 5's payload fairing. The BSat-4B satellite, which will be going up to act as a replacement for the BSat-4A, which was launched 3 years ago by another Ariane 5 rocket. Also on board is Northrop Grumman's Mission Extension Vehicle 2, which will be rendezvousing with Intelsat 1001 in January to dock to it and perform 5 years of mission extension life services for that telecommunications satellite. And the third passenger is Galaxy 30, which is the first of the replacement and revitalization series of the Galaxy fleet of telecommunications satellites for Intelsat, focusing primarily on their North American market. This particular one, Galaxy 30, will service the continental United States, Alaska, and portions of the Caribbean for telecommunication and direct-to-home video services. That kind of sounded like a press kit because I remember it almost verbatim from the press kit.
Well, you got a little bit of practice under your belt there doing that, so it's no wonder it's a finely tuned muscle you have.
Indeed. So yes, if they recycle to the T-minus 7 minute mark, they will have to be picking up the count here in 2.5 minutes. If they somehow manage to be in a stable configuration where they could be holding at T-minus 2 minutes, 14 seconds, and didn't have to recycle, then there's a bit more time. The window closes in 9 minutes from now. So 9 minutes left on our window. I would have to assume at this point that we're getting fairly close to the word that we don't want to hear ever, but and scrub. Confirmed as of 24 seconds ago. Arianespace has scrubbed today's launch of the Ariane 5 due to a red status condition during the mission's final launch chronology. Planning for a new liftoff date is underway. More information will come soon. So there you have it. We have officially scrubbed for today. Not exactly a surprising outcome, you might say, the longer we pushed into the unextended hold. But there you have it. But there you have it. The mission has indeed been scrubbed.
Well, better it gets scrubbed than something bad happens. So.
Indeed. What is it that they normally say? It's better to be safely on the ground wishing you were flying than to be in the air flying wishing you hadn't left the ground.
Yep.
So yes. So that is what has happened today.
À tous de DDO.
Yeah. There we go.
Arrêt de la chronologie, arrêt de la tentative de lancement aujourd'hui. La chronologie est définitivement donc arrêtée aujourd'hui. Elle sera reconduite demain avec un H0 visé à 18h30 local, à 21h30 TU. Que tous les moyens restent activés pour une mise en configuration d'arrêt de la base de lancement.
Well,
there we go.
Someone in chat says sad French noises.
Aww. Yes, that was the Director of Launch Operations, the DDO, as they are known in the control center, calling out the official termination of the synchronized sequence to the launch team and announcing officially the scrub for today. Again, no specific word on when they will try again.
People in chat are saying tomorrow.
Oh, did they already say the tweet?
Yeah, I don't know.
More information
People in
about
chat speak French or what, but yeah, people are saying tomorrow, 2100, 2130 UT.
Oh, which would make sense. which would indeed make sense. So yes, we will we'll seek to confirm that. But anyway, thank you so much to everyone who watched today. Jack, thank you for joining me. And hope maybe we'll be here again. Oh wow, tomorrow is going to be insane, isn't it now?
Yep.
If they try to go again tomorrow, that will be during NSF Live. So we'll already be live and have baked in coverage.
They can hear me now. This is a good point to make, though. This is Michael in the back channel. We have moved NSF Live from tomorrow at 5, or we are going to move NSF Live from tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern to deconflict it with Bob and Doug's undocking from the space station. We have not announced that yet publicly. NSF Live will be tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, and I don't think we'll be showing either of those two events. So if you want, so we're going to preview everything on NSF Live and answer all your questions, and then you can watch the official feeds of both of the Ariane launch and the undocking tomorrow.
All right.
Okay, did that just, okay, that sounds good then. So there you go. So we will look to confirm the next date for Ariane 5 here. But thank you to everyone who watched and who participated. Thank you to our new channel members, as well as everyone who threw us some super chats. Very much appreciated. It is that kind of support that allows us to bring you these types of live streams, as well as all of our coverage from Boca Chica and all of those awesome videos that Mary takes every day and that Jack edits together into their epicness on our YouTube channel. Jack, thank you so much for that too.
Yeah, hey, I wouldn't be able to do it without Mary's awesome, insane, relentless, unparalleled, accept no substitutes coverage.
100%, and a huge shout out and thank you to Mary for obtaining all of that coverage every single day and for being out there so often on our live streams. But that will do it for us today. NSF Live at 3 p.m. Eastern, 1500 EDT, 1900 UTC tomorrow is NSF's next live broadcast. So join us then for the preview of Ariane 5's launch and a preview of Bob and Doug's homecoming. Until then, and until next time, I'm Chris Gebhardt, Assistant Managing Editor of NASA Spaceflight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Chamber pressure looks good.